And we're going to be looking into Manifesto Yetu at this point. And before we get into that conversation, just to let you know who's here, Javan Ofula is the Creative and Digital Economy Lead at Manifesto Yetu. Didn't know what that was? We'll get into it today, this morning, as we do. Kidi Mwaga, who is also the convener for Manifesto Yetu, will be with us in a short while. But even as we do, let's get into things this morning with you. Very good morning to you, Javan.
Morning, how are you?
Very well, thank you. Karibu sana.
Asante.
You're going to be telling us all about Manifesto Yetu.
Yes.
We'll do that in a short bit. We'll also get you to interpret our proverb as soon as Kidi gets here so that we can do that together. But in the meantime, from a youth perspective, because a lot of things were said, a lot of things were hammered out yesterday within the walls of Parliament. If you were to look at the things that were said by the president yesterday in terms of how government has performed and the plans for the future, what do you feel about these?
I truly feel like government was talking from a space of ambition, not necessarily a reality on the ground. Because being one of the young people that has truly experienced what is happening out there, and also have had conversations that, of course, we will talk about later with young people across different regions of Kenya. That is not the reality on ground. And of course, we would love to see that articulated. We've come from a point where there are so many promises that don't actually come to be reality. And yes, it is easier said than done. The question would be then to pinpoint in reality where those things that were mentioned are in.
Interesting, Javan. And you see, the president in his speech said that we have to be factual.
Yes.
How we pronounce anything regarding our country,
exactly.
So that we don't mislead Kenyans. And you put it rightly so, evidently. All the papers support you today that some of the things he said were more ambitious than factual.
Yes.
But what are some of the areas you feel that we were misled, that we were misguided?
For once, I want to talk about two things. The TVETs, and the president outrightly pointed that our TVETs are very, very well sufficiently, have what it takes. I've been to some of them, and I want to talk, for example, about Nairobi region.
Yes.
Most of these TVETs are not as said. And this is something that comes from the actual beneficiaries, those that go into those TVETs. And what was said yesterday might be just a sampling of some of them. We will not say entirely that it's not there, but it's not in that lump sum as was put out. The second one is in the sector of job creation.
Yes.
And as we saw in the last 2 years, young people have shown their frustration because there's lack of employment. Saying that the privatization that has been done is to save that seems as an ambition. And what I'm saying again, let it remain as an ambition that we are working to and not the reality as of now.
Okay, let's take a couple of steps back because, as you may know, we look at a proverb from a different African country every week. And even as we get into this conversation, let's just hear your interpretation of this. Our proverbs we have from Guinea. Guinea in West Africa, colonized by the French, surrounded by a number of countries, whose capital is Conakry. And they've had some interesting times in the recent past. But let's look at what the proverb says today. It is God who drives away flies for the tailless animal. It is God who drives away flies for the tailless animal.
Interesting. My interpretation would mean that, and in this way I'm going to take it also from a spiritual perspective, that God comes in when we clearly speak out of our shortcomings. And that again also speaks to spaces that we are in as leaders, that we have to accept our shortcomings so that then the support can be fully embraced for our own good.
Absolutely. It's great. So for the youth perspective, we want to always look into, all right, there's so many voices that are coming up every now and then.
Yeah.
And to help us understand what specific roles or even general ones will youth then take up, because the youth of today will not be the youth of tomorrow.
Yes.
And that if there is a place that must be filled, and I do think that there are a lot of places that are already being filled, and that the understanding that it is in the hands of the younger people that we will put a lot of things going forward. Governance, the building of the economy, teaching, across board. So Manifesto Yetu is obviously something. Please let us know what that is.
I will start by going back to, of course, when the Gen Z revolt started, and as came of time, there was the so many less, faceless, leaderless, and as we went throughout the country, we asked, what are the lesses? Because the less that are in media and newspaper is just less of the few again, as you say. And every other youth in every other region has a less that they would love to be addressed. Manifesto Yetu came to be a year after, when we were just about to, celebrate, or rather commemorate the first anniversary. We sat down as young people and asked ourselves, okay, so what do we do? Because again, in the push for whatever we wanted then, and this has now been misconstrued to mean that when we said less, we didn't know what we wanted. When we said leaderless or faceless or whatever less, we didn't know what we wanted. But entirely and deeply, it meant that we didn't want to be in office to mean change. We just wanted the right things to be done. But going forward, we thought to ourselves, okay, who's saying what, from what angle, and to whom? So then the consolidation of young people to seek a manifesto, because again, we know we were talking to the leadership, but the leadership comes from the people through a process, a democratic process that Kenya has. And every other election cycle, our so-called leaders who want to take up office will come up with a manifesto and say, okay, this and this is what we will do, ambitions that they have for the people. But as young people, we felt, and mostly still feel, that those manifestos don't come from our own giving, our own contributions. So then Manifesto Yetu seeked to go around Kenya and get to really, really hear what the young people want in all sectors, consolidate them as one, and come up with a manifesto that can be used by all political parties, by independent candidates, and also something that outlives the political, seasons. When we say we are getting into 2027, the Manifesto Yetu seeks to consolidate voices that can be anchored on even past the electioneering period. Yes.
Okay. So then how would we see that and say that Manifesto Yetu is actually being lived out?
Exactly. That's a good question. The process that we are still in, and we are soon coming to a validation, is that we've sat down with different stakeholders. We've gone to different regions of Kenya. Of course, we would have wished to go to the 47 counties that we have, but time and resources couldn't allow us, and then we reverted to the so-called regions, or rather the provinces that we have. So we've gone to regions, collected voices, consolidating them now, and of course, after validation with these same young people, put it out there, push it, with our leaders to see that it is articulated. Of course, it's long work that we have ambitions and seeing them, but speaking to each other and living by those, then we'll see us achieve something.
Okay. The convener of Manifesto Yetu is here. Kidi Mwaga is here this morning. Good morning, Kidi.
Good morning, dear.
How are you?
Yeah, easy like a Sunday morning.
But except that it's Friday.
Could have been a better morning.
Right?
Yes.
But you're all right? Well, thank you for making it here this morning. Javan was just, kind of explaining to us a little bit about what Manifesto Yetu is.
Yes.
And we're coming from a place whereby there's the youth, this one block that everybody keeps talking about, youth employment, youth politically, youth this, that, the other thing. without taking into consideration that there are quite a number of sections of voices that are already speaking up, that there are young people who are speaking up in their communities.
Yes.
There are young people who are doing things in their communities.
Yes.
There are young people who are offering themselves up in positions of leadership.
That's true.
So is this coming to consolidate all of that, or is it another voice that's being added to what is already there?
A profound question, do. Well, you remember that last year and this year, we've had very many voices of young people. For instance, you know that I ordinarily identify as the convener of Interparties Youth Forum. So we decided as young people from different sectors that it was improper for us to be speaking in a segmented manner. So for instance, the latest survey by TIFA was indicating that the most popular political party in Kenya is UDA, standing at 16%. That meant that there were so many other voices out there that whenever we were speaking would be left out. Javan, as you might have discovered already, is an exceptionally talented political organizer, but within, and also a creative within the very many sectors and communities in Kenya. There are other people who are representing different other interests elsewhere. So that is why when we came together under Manifesto Yetu, we brought together these different segments, YSO, academia, creatives, and of course the rest of us from political parties. Because the challenges that we are facing are cross-cutting, but our voices were segmented. So as a critical first step, we then decided that we cannot pretend to be speaking for young people when we have not intimately understood that what is the experience of our fellow other colleagues. Then we then embarked on the process of documented the deepest frustrations of our colleagues and their best, highest hopes.
Nice. Well, and when you look at that process of trying to have a collage of issues, bring them on board from all corners of the world, and onboarding various set groups, would you say, given what happened yesterday from the State of the Nation, that the issues you have captured in engaging everybody across board, across the country, the concerns that they have raised, the ambitions that you have as a group, would you say they were echoed in that State of the Nation speech by the President yesterday?
Well, one thing I would say is that the President's speech was very pragmatic and very conciliatory. You noticed that the President spoke without any hubris, but then speech in itself is not enough. So one thing we have made peace with as young people is that the issues of young people have always been left out and left behind. For instance, the last administration did young people bad in very many respects. But again, you remember that President Kenyatta is one of the most eloquent statesmen we have this side of the tropics.
Right.
So then we decided that we will turn the issues of young people into political questions and then attempt to find a political answer to them. And that begins with organizing and mobilizing the voices of this demographic segment and making sure that then we put them within the structures of the mainstream political process.
Do the young people agree that the president and the government at the moment is actually doing what should be done to lift this nation from where it is to where it should be going? Because you mentioned that his speech was void of hubris. If anything, it was peppered with hubris because he said very clearly that he has done the best amongst presidents for a long period of time. He said that he has sorted out the nation. He was extremely confident in himself. So I don't know that that would be the position that he presented yesterday. It didn't come from a place whereby he was meek and humble and saying that we've messed up but we'll do better. It came from a place where he's sure about what has been done and where the country's going in the future.
Before I let my brother Javan come in, I think the lack of hubris was in his body language. You and I have watched the president address other meetings before. But then yesterday you realize that he was more laid back in terms of body language. In terms of hubris, I mean, in terms of overestimating the impact of some of his decisions, I think it is. While we don't want to come here to lament, but we know that politicians sometimes would want to slightly over-exaggerate certain things, or even over-exaggerate. But I think that we will leave that for the people of Kenya.
Which is you here now,
Yes,
you,
yes.
Javan.
Very much.
Very much, yes.
Looking at it this way, yesterday we had a sort of a manifesto from the president.
Yes.
Because, manifesto is basically
Exactly.
a promissory
Yes,
note.
I wish-
That
yes,
this
yes.
is what we want to achieve. This is where we are. This is the path we
Yes.
want to take.
Yeah.
And then you have the Manifesto Yetu.
Yes.
Simply put,
Yeah.
can the two marry?
As is of now, the two still are in a tangle. Not entirely marrying because, as I had alluded to earlier, the president's proclamations yesterday don't entirely, concur with the young people's true experiences and lived experiences on the ground.
Right.
And that is what we seek to change. Because then, as you rightfully put, those are the manifestos of the government. Then we are bringing the true voices of the young people and looking at too, can they communicate? Where can we do corrections? Because then we want to also, in some instances, assume that our leaders might be living, far from the realities on the ground, and we seek then to speak to them factually.
Yes.
And this is what we are collecting on the ground, so that when we move forward, it's not hearsay. It's these
Factual
versus
based,
these,
yeah.
and this is where we want to go. And we're not pushing them to the corner and saying that you must achieve these overnight. But this is how we want it to be done, and this is what we look at.
So sticking to that realistic approach,
Yes.
which is good because that's the only way to achieve any realistic change.
Yes.
And also echoing what you said earlier, that we only have leaders, I call them employees. The president is my employee.
Yes,
we
that's
pay
true.
him from
Yeah.
our taxes. But we only have these employees that we put in office through a democratic process.
Yes.
From the collecting of issues
Yes.
from the youth across the country.
Yes.
I don't know what the position is regarding voter registration,
Yeah.
because the only way to actively participate
Yeah.
in this democratic space and process
Yeah.
of having employees in office is going to the ballot, so that the manifesto
Yes.
that the Manifesto Yetu is putting together
Yeah.
and other like-minded voices can be well addressed.
Yes.
How is that coming along? Because the number has been too low in terms of new registration.
Two things are happening now.
Right.
From what has happened in the last 2 to 3 years is that we have had voter apathy. Those who've registered have not turned up to vote. But also from the last 2 years, we know that there is a possibility, a great possibility, that we will have first-time voters. These two demographics are the ones that we are also speaking to really turn the wheels, because they have the power that for some reason those who had registered and never voted felt like was not, going to bring change. But that is changing, especially now that we are doing the manifestos ourselves. The one thing that has been there, and we go down there and ask them, first, do you think manifestos work? The feeling of most of them is they don't. But when we dig deeper, is why does it not work? The feeling is that because they never participated in making those manifestos, and that then means the priorities set by their leaders were not necessarily their priorities. So this is changing now, because then we are bringing priorities that, if taken up by leaders and of course speaking to each other, then change will for sure be seen.
Now, Kidi, do the youth understand that what Javan is saying, that bringing this manifesto, the active participation will only be realized when you come out and vote, however you vote, whoever you vote for, because as a person you're trusting to further the agenda. Do the youth understand? And why are they not coming out to assume their right position? Because the initial civic duty is for you to register as a voter. So then I can come and say, whatever the president said is not right. I don't agree with it. It does not address my daily needs as a student, as a mother, as a husband, whatever it is in the country. So I need somebody different to come and implement this manifesto that I have actively participated in putting together. But when they don't register to vote, how will that come to life?
Profound question. Now, part of why we've been witnessing a rising youth voter apathy has been how so many young people have been consistently let down by the political process. They are mobilized to vote, and after voting, they realize that there is very little for them. We were alive in this country when we said Kumira Kumira in 2013. Majority of those who are young people in 2013 are today, especially late Gen X and early millennials,
right,
are now a fairly disappointed lot because of how opportunity has kept on drifting away from them in the last 1 decade. Then there was 2017 and there was 2022, and the circle has been the same. So when we went out with my brother Javan and the other colleagues whom God gave the presence of mind to work together with us,
correct,
one thing the youth told us, that we are not coming out to vote because it is a zero-sum game. Whether you elect party A or party B, the shafting that will happen to you is the same. So then we decided that, part of why that is happening is because we've not been able to consolidate our numbers. We've not been able to speak in a voice that the political class would know that young people think and feel that this is a priority. So when we came together under Manifesto Yetu, then we are saying we are not coming with any solutions to you, fellow dear countrymen, but we are saying that if we have documented our frustrations and presented it to the political class, while at the same time mobilizing our numbers, then maybe something will happen. Yes.
So usually when you look at politics, is that politics in its original idea came about to solve issues in society through representatives. That is, the politics now played the game so that you get these representatives that can sort out an issue. So that's why people enter into politics. Over time, it's been bastardized. We know that has happened. That people then use this politics to then get themselves in a position for self-servitude and self-expediency and power and money, essentially. It's been corrupted. But if we look at it in its true form, then we say, okay, we're getting into this game of politics in order to put somebody in a position that is going to right certain things in society or at least uphold certain things across board, right? So what are some of those issues? Because we keep doing, maybe we can get to it today finally. Is that we keep saying the youth agenda, okay, provide jobs, okay, put somebody, we need a younger person in. What are the issues that young people have or that would want to correct if they were put in those positions of leader? What are those actual issues? Because talk about manifesto, those are the things that essentially go on this document.
There's so many issues to be addressed, but I want to speak up to 2 or 3. One of them is the democratic process that we have as a nation, and in the midst of it, in the depth of it, is that we have political parties that work as vehicles into this process, in and out. And young people have shown remorse to the processes that political parties are formed not on basis of solving issues, but on basis of just carrying some individuals or some narratives or some blocks. This has to change, and young people have clearly spoken out to this, that we want political parties that are addressing issues. Not narratives, not tribes, not seasons, but addressing issues. So the manifesto also seeks to build leaders, because sometimes we say we have leader A, leader B, leader C, but what is the processes of having them come from the ground up to leadership positions? So the manifesto seeks to also have a consolidated approach and issues that they can work on through and through. Let's look at our, election cycles. 5 years. If we were to have leaders built in within 5 years, and say, and I'll use an example, in county assemblies or in members of parliament,
right,
why don't communities already identified who could be their leaders before electioneering period? Because then we don't have such structures, such spaces to build them. We seek to have such structures and such spaces, so that also if you become a member of a political party, you're not there because someone just brought you in. You're there because the party speaks to issues that relate to you and your communities, and you can address them. And lastly, is to say that young people have lost hope in those processes. But we've seen where the challenge is, and addressing them is saying the reality. Maybe 2027 we might not have the best, but what is the percentage that we are looking at? And if we look at 2027, 2032 and after, can we be somewhere? So these are the three things that we are seeking to address. And of course, it's a long process.
Well, Javan, I'll have you know.
Yes.
There is no reason why you cannot have the best in 2027. This country is ours. We are the voters. We are the ones who decide. So, in hindsight, I'll take you back again to the voting, because the initiative you have is great. Yeah. This is what the country needs. People discussing and conversing around the issues they want to see changed and how they want to see them addressed.
Yes.
But when it comes to a point whereby we overlook the foundation of change, because we're in a democratic space.
Yes.
If we were, for lack of a better example, at war, like Sudan, we'll be seeking peace.
Yes.
If we were in a more shrinking democratic space like Tanzania, we'll be looking to expand that.
Yeah.
But as we have a very good, decent, modest constitution that allows us to participate, when we overlook the initial qualifier of you to come and say, I'm going to have Kidi as my MCA, I'm going to have Javan as my MP, I'm going to have Ndu as my president. When you overlook that phase by not registering as a voter, then all this is going to be rhetoric and promises like we had yesterday from the State of the Nation.
I don't know if Javan will go first.
I will. Okay. I will say that has been the issue then in the past. But we need also to speak to two areas: those who need to vote and those who have the mandate to do the process. Because sometimes, and we've seen these, we've asked these questions, and partly what we are doing now in our sittings and convenings, we also call the IBC to come and do voter registration, and it is working well. The difference, or rather the situation that is now, we are also in a world that things have changed and things are moving faster. We are also speaking to a young generations that looks at, for example, making work easy. We were all taught this, make work easy. While we are working with systems that seem not to make work easy. We are not by any means taking that as an excuse, but why are they not doing that? We are coming out en masse, but sometimes you go to a ward and you ask the young people, do you know where the IBC have set up their tents? And they'll count 1, 2, 3, and they're like, but the other one is way, you have to take a lot of time to go there. Yes, we can. But why are we not investing as much into also reaching into the people? And we have to speak to to that aspect.
Kidi?
Thank you. Well, one, you asked that question. I thought I answered it. I'm sorry if I didn't. But over and above what Javan has said, is that also remember that this country has experienced loss of trust in institutions. And therefore, part of the many starting points we have is a question of rebuilding trust, especially between the young people and some of the institutions of what you call political competition management institutions. One of them being IEBC. As we were doing our our convenings, both stakeholder convenings and regional convenings, we would, as is rightly said, that we would look for the nearest IEBC office. And IEBC was very helpful, that many of the times they would send their officers next to our convenings, and as we were convening in the course of the day, the registration would be going on. Still, the numbers are not very up there, but nothing is lost. Part of why nothing is lost is, remember, this is a continuous voter registration process. When we have the document, when we engage in a comprehensive political education, I think we will give the young people the reason to come out and determine their fate, knowing that fate lies in their vote. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Kidi. Well put. Shifting gears a little bit. So yesterday the president gave the State of the Nation. And the members who are sitting in parliament were very excited.
Yes.
They even committed that he should serve another term.
Yes.
When you see that as a youth, and given where you stand with the issues that are outstanding from the Manifesto Yetu,
yes,
what do you make of those legislatures? What do you make of this parliament?
Yes. Well, I think that we have, we must remember, one, that parliament stands impeached. On June 25th, the young people withdrew their mandate from parliament. So it continues to serve, knowing that it suffers that legitimacy crisis. We have also, if you look, I work in the area of data. So part of work I do is is forecasting and modeling. If you look at most of the major surveys that have been done around legislature, it indicates that up to 92% will certainly not recapture their seats. So even as they were singing 2-term, or under those of their colleagues singing 1-term, I think that every actor is self-interested. And so they were acting, of course, in their self-interest. But I think that the young people have internalized where the problem is, the weak link is. The weak link, in our estimation, includes, but not limited to Parliament, because of some of the legislations that Parliament has passed consistently. One of them being the Finance Bill 2024, which then almost broke this democracy. So I think young people are aware of where the work is, and they're ready to get the work done. Let me bring in my colleague.
You've said it well, Kidi, and I think truly, and I want to again leave it to the people. Sometimes we judge in all sum, which in a democracy shouldn't always be the case. When we move around, we ask, do you know of your MCA, your member of parliament, your senator, your governor? What do they do vis-a-vis what you want them to do? Maybe some of them were rightfully placed to cheer because maybe they've been served, and maybe not for some of them. The question then goes back to the people, and it's an issue of holding our leaders to account every other day. It's not one-off. So I'm just gonna leave this to say, go back for those young people and Kenyans, look at your leaders in parliament yesterday and point out your MP. Was he on the right side of that conversation then? Because then that matters to every other individual, because also we want to give power back to individuals to make the rightful decision and not decide for them, because it has happened that many a times we want to speak for each other while not considering their rightful view and sitting point.
Do you think, do you think that members of parliament, listen, I mean, look at the members of parliament that we have in age from 27 all the way till 80 something.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So there's minimal youth representation in that demographic.
Yes.
And do you think that they would listen if there was proper agitation that came? And how should that agitation be brought about? One way that would look a little controversial, but I think was highly effective, was a couple of months ago, that when you saw something that a member of parliament did that perhaps there was it did not bring about any kind of satisfaction. The very now popular phrase came, wacha tuwasalimia.
Yes.
Now, imagine if watu wanasalimiwa with these messages of what you must do by virtue of the fact that you have been elected. Do you think that with that kind of coalescing around this idea, that there would be some kind of movement?
Of course, there would be. There already is. Most of members of parliament have already changed tune on what they are saying, when they are saying, and how they are saying it, because they know people are watching and people will pick. The demographic that is now truly is gone. We've lost hope. Many have lost hope. But then that means we might also say goodbye until 2027. That is too much of a time to just sit and watch. So then we have to continue kuwasalimia, and the notion, again, we have to speak to these things. The notion of kuwasalimia is only when they do bad, is also a line itself. We are also speaking to when they do good. What that one MCA, that one MP, when they do good, what do we do? Because then it has to be in a way that someone feels, and I've seen this because I've had leaders, because I mobilize, as Kidi rightfully said, in Embakasi North constituency, for example, before we had elections, the past elections, we had already pinpointed who we wanted to be leaders. Some of them made it in, some didn't. For those who made it in, we always have sittings and ask, ask ourselves or ask them, why are you not doing this and that? And they say, this far much the system doesn't allow me. And the system is not just me, it's many of us. So what then do we do? In that case, then we salimia someone differently because we are speaking to each other and they are making effort. If the majority of them then can be pro people, then the shift is truly going to be there.
It's interesting. And now back to the Manifesto Yetu.
Yes.
Because you still have over a year before we get to the election.
Yes.
What are the key issues that you're feeling so far? You know, that this is what people would want, or even just that one thing people are saying, if only the government we have in place, or we will put in place come 2027, addresses this key pillar, the fiber of our country will change.
We've got the structure of how the manifesto will look like is already out. Because after we finished collecting views, we engaged experts, 2 of them I must say, and we are now working with them to make sure that they help us in the drafting. Again, part of why that happened is that some of us are politically aligned one way or another, and so therefore to make sure that our individual biases does not seep into the document, we then give that process to an independent persons. A number of issues come up, but I think even my brother attempted to mention it earlier. The question on peace and security, we think that the question of constitutionalism and the rule of law is one thing that was cross-cutting from Homa Bay to Mandera, where we went with my brother Javan. We were at Garissa, Mandera TTC. From Busia, where our other colleagues went, to Kajiado, where our other teams were. That question is cross-cutting. I will let Javan speak to other issues.
Okay, Javan, please.
Thank you. The other issue that has come out, and this again speaks very much to the youth and the youth sector, is the issue of unemployment. And remember, the manifesto is not just going to speak to the national government. We have devolution from, the Constitution 2010 that now really has devolved so many functions and resources. In Mandera, for example, the county government is the only employer. And then that speaks very differently if you are to look at the national government and the county governments. What this manifesto seeks is also to address issues that can be served on a county level. If we go to Mombasa, and the other day the presidency spoke about blue economy, we asked people, for example, from the coastal region and the Nyanza region, what is blue economy? How does your leader articulate to this? How do you yourself understand it? And what opportunities lie in there? So employment is one other issue that has really, really come out. And I think if truly addressed in a very sober way by speaking to the opportunities that are available, because also I think most of the time our leaders speak to opportunities that are just,
up in the air. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Can we pick up that a little bit? Because I think there are very many things that have come out from government in terms of plans, and I think they're beautiful. I'll be honest with you. I think they're absolutely great plans. There's a G2G agreement between Kenya and the UAE, for example, to provide meat product to the Gulf countries. That's perfect. Put that on one side. But on this other side also, from the State of the Nation address, the president said that he has prioritized agriculture as one of the things that's going to boost the economy. There have been calls to make agriculture sexy again and put it in the hands of the young people. So where would the connection be then if we say, okay, is it possible that a young person who is a jobless today, for me, I would imagine that government would then be able to create an environment so conducive that young people, for example, you see that Nyota thing that they're doing, connect it to the thing that you're looking for that would then build the economy and say, put money in the hands of young people who would then be able to start an agricultural project with 2 nanny goats and 1 billy goat,
Yes.
and at the end of the day, or at the end of the year, you have 100, that you are curating for meat that feeds into this UAE Kenya project.
Yes.
You kill 3 birds with 1 stone,
Yes.
essentially. But are young people even aware
And
that thing is inexistent, to then be able to push government to say, hello, we can take advantage of this agreement that you've made, but we are not powered with the opportunity.
Yes.
Are people asking these questions?
rightfully said and put. And again, the opportunities that lie is across so many sectors. Just speaking to the creative economy or creative sector, for example, the creative economy, or rather what comes from the creatives in Kenya, contributes to 5% of our GDP. However, the investment that comes from the government is less than 1%. These things, young people know them. And they are, again, experts in every sector. The question that has been is who speaks to what in which way? Because you don't want to go to Mombasa and speak about farming. You want to go to Mombasa and speak about blue economy and everything. A good example was when we met the so-called beach boys. You know, that word seems and has always been put to look like, oh, beach boy. But that in itself is an economy that can be funded and used to employ people in Mombasa through the county government. They know, but how it's said, invested in, is the question. Young people know we want to offer a platform, for example, for agroecology and value addition. We have a lot that we can offer. We have a lot of opportunities to offer jobs, but then the platform that those conversations are happening is what is missing, and Manifesto Yetu seeks to give that.
Again, that brings us to what I think the question that you asked earlier about the manifestos. The truth is that when governments are seeking the vote, usually they come with very good manifestos. And that is what you call the People's Manifesto.
Yeah.
But again, when they are in office, some of those priorities change because of other interests that, for purposes of this conversation, we will call the Contractors' Manifesto. So as a consequence, there are good plans, but there is no follow-through because of other interests. Our critical first step of curing that is to therefore make sure that the young people have the information, and over and above the information, that then their numbers are mopped up around these issues. Thank you.
Right. So as you cut across the country, crisscross, and try to shape the ideological changes that people are desiring, how do other youthful, young people, other voices join you? Where do they find you? How do they connect with you? And most importantly, you know, for a long time there has been such initiatives, but you realize it's the backhand or the underhand of the regime, the same regime you're agitating against. So it could be I, who is your partner in that Manifesto Yetu. I'm the one driving the narrative, but I'm from that regime. So the issue of trust comes up. So how independent are you in terms of even like funding yourself, your initiatives? And then again, like I asked earlier, how do the other voices get to join you?
On joining, we have attempted to take advantage of technology. There is American political consultant who was very popular in the Bush era called Karl Rove. Karl Rove, in his book Courage and Consequence, says that let technology work so that people can think. We have taken advantage of technology. Young people are engaging with us on our social media handles, which is one of the easiest way to get hold of us. But then we also realize that there are very many...
What are the handles? It's okay.
It is Manifesto Yetu. We are Manifesto Yetu on every social media handle.
Yes.
Of course, individually, also our handles are there. We've been engaging with young people about how to join us. There is 2 types of joining. There is the individual joining, and then there is corporate joining. On corporate joining is that young people, say in Majengo, in Pumwani, are already organized and working, but they are working just amongst themselves. So then what we do is that they give us someone they are working with, their leader, someone they've identified as their leader, to then join us at the Manifesto Yetu technical working group. That way, we know what is happening in Majengo. Individually, is that the young people of Kenya, because we are not saying we are for this region or for this ideology or for that, it is as long as you're a young person of Kenya, then you are invited to engage in the Manifesto Yetu and make sure that we write a narrative that can bring back the lost trust in this country.
And can it be, and those who, you click into this, can they be members of political parties? Can they already be pushing a particular agenda in a political party, or is this one to form a political party on its own? Well, how does that look like?
Thank you. And part of the formation that we have is also youth leaders from youth leagues of different political parties. It's an all-encompassing coalition. We have youth-serving organizations. We have youth leaders from academia. We have youth leaders from different sectors already in. But we understand that that is not the end. And of course, any person also interested within the youth sector. And we, of course, call the young people, but if there is anyone who's not even within the age gap of a youth but has something to give in, we welcome these thoughts, because also we've had a challenge of intergenerational conversations where it's young people versus the old, and that is not the way to solve issues in a democracy that is a country.
Right. So, like we said earlier, there's no reason why you cannot have the best in 2027. Yes. And knowing that, it's best that we remind ourselves that bad leaders are elected by people who do not vote.
Yes.
Very good.
Another reason why people should come out and register, and I think that ought to be a core issue moving forward for all of us, not just your responsibility, but for all of us, is to understand that the reason we've been having this cooperation, handshake, broad-based, is because the winning margin has remained too low.
Yes.
So 2027, if we want the manifestos to converge into a transformational agenda of the country, the winning margin has to be so significant, meaning that the majority of us Kenyans will have trust and faith and give the mandate to that one person with more than 10 million. And then whoever will be number two will be a distant number two with about 2 million. So we don't end up with these shenanigans of handshake, broad-based, whereby you end up with what you call voter apathy. People are like, even whether I vote or not, these people are going to march.
I will be shafted the same number.
Yes, so please do come out and vote. But first of all, get the vote. Then we can argue on whom to vote for.
Yes.
That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Brilliant. I don't know if it is a chance to say our last remark.
Go ahead.
We are glad that we have met a pair of very brilliant journalists to ask us questions on Manifesto Yetu. I think the work is cut out for us, collectively as the people of Kenya, the young and the young at heart, to make sure that we turn the wheel of progress. Again, as Martin Luther King once observed, that change does not turn on the wheels of inevitability. It takes individual men like Ndu and Javan and the rest of us and the Kidi Mwagas of this world to make sure that we make a small change. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kidi.
Asante sana. I will just want to say that progress is not linear, and every one of us has a responsibility. The journey is on. The commitments are on. I've seen it from our young people from every other space. The saying then would be, let's step out in our numbers to do whatever it is that we want to do to change this nation. We've committed ourselves as the Manifesto Yetu, and by large, this is our responsibility as a people.
I mean, it's great to hear that, the conversation is for continued steps towards a nation or statehood that involves the people, but not just involves the people, but involves the people engaged in proper governance, proper leadership, proper involvement when it comes to any direction that the nation wants to take. Thank you both for being here this morning. Of course, necessary for us to look into these things. We're coming off of the State of the Nation and looking into the next week, where many have said a litmus test is being put out for what the next 1.5 years will look like when it comes to the nation's politics. but very clear that we can't keep quiet about some of these things. We must be involved in these conversations. We must form the discourse, and we must be front and center when it comes to how nations will be governed, how funds will be spent, how people will be involved. And we're glad that you're doing that and being involved. And so let's see what it comes out to be. So don't stop talking, don't stop engaging, and thank you for being here this morning.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This country is better because you're around.
Well, there you go. Asante sana.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.